that I've been asked to share some stories with you today. So anyway, tan sigakyo no ako magantik kinanas kom tinawaw kutaki sigaw kami gusyan eba kiyugata ko kumanot sumuta umuta mamato apachitagan gapachitahan kwa kikskete na o niya nehiyaw is kipetaw na o nehiyaw yan kwa waskit sa utsin niya nanas kumon na ya eki migus yan ego mapiks ko ne kwa egiks na magaw yan tanse kes nehiyaw yan tanse kes nehiyaw ang panitigan so, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the beautiful Nehio or Plains Cree language. And I was just saying in my language that I'm grateful that I can speak this language, that I have a Cree mind as well. And I'm grateful to be able to share some stories with you today. And so you often wonder, at this time of the month, why do Indigenous people get invited, like myself, to share stories? Well, it is because it is winter time, and a long, long time ago, when we were not playing with our PlayStations or Nintendos or playing with anything electronical like we do today, because a long time ago the ancestors did not have those things. Well, they would have something else. It's called oral tradition and storying. And so on cold winter days like the ones we're having in February here, they would sit around the fire in their lodges, in their mikwapa, and the storytellers would be given tobacco, and the storytellers would entertain and share stories that they heard growing up with young people and old people as well, because it is it is um, it is often that even old people like to hear stories, and you don't have to be young to listen, but you can be old too, because it is through the sharing that we do that we learn from each other. And many of these stories that I have were picked up from listening to old people. And so I thank my late grandmother, Rose Kennedy, and my late grandfather, Joe Kennedy, and my living father right now. He's alive. His name is Alex Kennedy. They've taught me stories, and I listen to stories that were told by old people as well, not just these three people that I spoke about, but others as well. So, so what do the storytellers share? Well, they share their knowledge, they share their experience, and sometimes they tell stories that are called ahtayohkewina, which are like spiritual stories, supernatural stories. And there's one character that I have in mind, which is a character that's been known all across the Americas, even South, Central, and North America. But in the Cree Nation, we call him Wisagetzak. And we tell stories of this creator being, this helper that helped creator uh, with creation, with the creation of birds, plants, animals, and his work with life. And so within our tribe, we call him Wisagetzak. Out here in the east, among the Mi'kmaq people, they call him Glooskap. Further west of me into 2 hours from here, there's an Anishinaabe people, and into Ontario, and they call that person Nanabozo or Nanabush. And then further south, maybe into South Dakota, North Dakota, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, there are Nakota, Dakota, and Lakota Sioux people, and they call him Inktomi. Okay. And then further west, out on the coast of BC, they call him the Raven. Okay. So, so Wisagetsag is known by all people, but in their indigenous cultures and their language. Okay. So I believe Wisagetsag was known to all of us, and but we just have different names for him. And I believe he is something like an ascended master. An ascended master is someone that has supernatural powers, that is human like and God like, and teaches the people about Creator. In fact, the Sioux people, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota peoples, have a character by the name of the White Buffalo Calf Woman, who presented to those peoples ceremony and several ceremonies. And I believe that most indigenous people, long time ago, had characters like that were created by the Creator to share God's laws with the people. And so it is Wisagetsag that did that for us. Now, Wisagetsag, as you will hear, he was supernatural. He was like a child at the same time, and he was like an old man. But he did many things in life a long, long time ago. In fact, today, people still see this character, this person, this being. In fact, there's a special sweat lodge that the Rocky Boy people, the Cree people of Rocky Boy Reservation in Montana, they have a sweat lodge called the Wisagetsag Sweat. And sometimes in that sweat lodge, the spirit of Wisagetsag comes in and talks to the people. Okay. And sometimes people see Wisagetsag. In fact, there are stories of elders seeing Wisagetsag walk through the forest, and he's as tall as the trees, maybe even taller. So, so he does still exist, just as other ascended masters do, who work with people. And so that is what I wanted to say. Now, before I get into my storytelling, boys and girls and teachers, I'm going to burn some sweetgrass here. And sweetgrass is like a medicine. I call it the hair of Mother Earth. And so you can see the holy smoke there. So I'm going to smudge myself. I'm going to smudge my bear hide rattle. And usually I say a prayer before I start something like this. Because after all, or these sacred stories or creation stories come from a special place, and they come from our ancestors, and our ancestors had experience with these characters like Wisagetsag. And so these stories have been passed on spiritually to us and physically through oral tradition. And so to honor the spirit of those stories, I'm going to sing a prayer song for you, and then I'll get into my storytelling. Okay? All right, here we go. Way, yeah, yo, hey, 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 yeah, 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 hey, ah, hey, hi, yo, hey, 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 yo, hey, hi, hey, hi, way, hi, way, hi, hiya, hiya, yo, Yahweh, Yahweh, hi, ya, yo, way, ya, hi, hi, ya, ya, way, ya, oh, hey, hi, ya, ya, way, hi, ya, ya, way, hi, ya, way, hi, ya, hi, ya, hi, ya, yo. All right, so that's kind of like a special song. I call it a prayer song. Kaki Simuwaigan. And if you were to go to church, you would call those kinds of songs hymns. Okay. So anyway, let's get into this storytelling. So Wisagacak is known uh, by everything because he was once the son of everything. He was once the son of the buffalo. He was once the son of the moose, or even the fish, or even the pine tree, or even sage. So he experienced life as we know it in all things because he experienced different life forms. And through experiencing different life forms, he was able to talk in the language of all things. He could talk with the birds, he could talk with the animals, and he could talk with all kinds of human beings and speak in their language. And so Wisagacak was a real special being. And he had a lot of adventures. So he was funny too. And he had a lot of funny experiences. So I'm going to tell you a story about how the buffalo got his horns. And so in Plains Indian Sign Language, this is the sign language for buffalo. Okay, so if you do that, that means buffalo. I see one buffalo. You see one buffalo. So this Plains Indian Sign Language or hand talk is something that our people used to use a long time ago when they talked with other people, but they also used that language to talk with early Europeans. As early Europeans that came to the Americas, especially North America, they learned that sign language. And so they could talk with each other and they would listen to each other. So, anyway, here we go. This is Wisagetsak and how the buffalo got his horns. Well, one day, Wisagetsak was on the prairie and he saw this buffalo skull. It was bleached white. It was there on the prairie. And for no reason, he walked up to it and he kicked it. And this buffalo skull went rolling. And not far away from where he was, Wisagetak was being watched by a buffalo, a lead buffalo that we call Iapes. And so this lead buffalo was kind of like the chief of a little herd of buffalo who were standing amongst some poplar trees. And so this lead buffalo saw what Wisagetzak did and he became very angry. And so he started running towards Wisagetzak. And Wisagetzak became aware that he was being chased. Something was after him. And he looked and he saw this big, huge lead buffalo, this Iapes, chasing him. And so, what do you do when an animal chases you? You run, right? So Wisagetzak took off and he ran as fast as he could. But this buffalo was right behind him. And this buffalo wanted to hurt him because this buffalo was, oh, he was mad because his relative, even though it was a buffalo skull, was disrespected. And so this buffalo was aiming to teach Wisagetsak a lesson, and he wanted to hurt Wisagetsak. So he was chasing Wisagetsak. So Wisagetsak was running, and he was talking at the same time and screaming, "Ah! Kayan pa yan! Don't kill me! Tanay gumagahumaga kwenpahin! Why are you trying to kill me? Tanay ke why?" And the buffalo wouldn't say anything. And the buffalo got even more mad. And so Wisagetsak was running for his life because he didn't want to get hurt. He didn't want to get hit by this big buffalo. And so he was running around, thinking, how can I escape this big, big bull? And so he saw those poplar trees, which we call mitosak. Okay, and so Wisagetsak ran, and he leaped up into the air, up into the trees, and caught a hold of one of the poplar trees, and he held on. And so he was above the buffalo, hanging on to this tree. And Wisagetsak looked down and started talking. Hamaga, tanege humaga kwenpahin. Okay, why are you trying to kill me? Tanege huma. Kakswasin, why are you mad? Kiwaye kitutaman. Kakswaitan, what did I do to make you mad? And this buffalo got mad even more, and he started hitting that tree. And what that buffalo wanted to do was to hit that tree and knock it down. So Wisagetsak still couldn't figure it out. Why is this buffalo wanting to hurt him? And he was trying to placate the buffalo. In other words, he was trying to soothe the buffalo and make him calm down. And he said, "My brother, please don't try to hurt me. I'm just a humble person. I am no good to anybody. Even if you kill me, what will that prove? Yes, I know you're strong and beautiful, and you've proven that already just by existing." And the buffalo wouldn't have it. He was still mad until finally that tree began to break and fall over. And Wisagetsak leapt from that tree onto another poplar tree nearby, and he hung on. And this got the buffalo even more mad. And so Wisagetsak was yelling, "Kaya! Don't! Kayan pahin! Kaya! Kakwewisa katahon! Don't try to hurt me, please!" But the buffalo wouldn't have it. He kept hitting that tree. And that tree was beginning to weaken. And so Wisagetsak was thinking, what can I do? What can I do to save my life? And so finally Wisagetsak calmly said, "Oh, brother buffalo, I will say a prayer for you. I will say a prayer for your family and all the buffalo nation, and I will give you a gift. If you let me do this, you will be blessed forever." And the buffalo stopped and looked up at him, and he was thinking, what is Wisagetsak going to give me? What will he give me so that I'm blessed and all my relatives, all my progeny are blessed? So Wisagetsak looked down, and he timidly started to come down off that tree as he realized that this big, huge buffalo was calming down. And so this buffalo kind of backed off a little bit. Wisagetsak got down to the ground, and he said, "I'm going to say the most beautiful prayer, and I'm going to do a pipe ceremony for you. I'm going to pray with my pipe." And so Wisagetsak got to the ground, and he made a space, and he took out his tiny little pipe, and he lit up some sweetgrass, kind of like what I did with this sweetgrass, and he began to bless his pipe with the sweetgrass, and he filled his pipe with some tobacco. And then he took this pipe and he began to pray. Hamamoyo tawi mau nanas kumon kotakis kau gamigusyang nanas kumonon si misauta kanipo tamate sagaktimaganago usu gawitsi usu anigaw yaski istegagi simutatan timaganaw utan si miso paskwa mustos ananas kumon numosogista ay gagi simutatan gattimaganaw tegwa yapes. And so Isaiah said this prayer: Creator, thank you very much. Thank you for this buffalo that is with me. I pray that you would bless him and take care of him. Mother Earth, I also pray that you take care of this buffalo. Grandfather, I also pray that you take care of this buffalo and all of his progeny and all of his relatives. And so on and on. Isaiah prayed, and the buffalo all of a sudden got calm, and he was no longer angry because he knew that the prayers that were said for him were blessing him and blessing his people, his nation. And so after the prayer was done, Visagatzak put his prayer pipe down, and he took it apart and cleaned it and put it back into his little medicine bag. And to keep his promise, Wisagitsak told the buffalo, Ha! Hay, 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 kinanaskum tin moin pahin. Tiniman na magigway niya. Maga, kausita matin kiway miyasik. So in other words, I'm grateful that you didn't kill me. I am nothing, but I'm going to give you something in return for sparing my life. And so Wisagitsak went to the poplar tree, and the one that was knocked down, and he took some branches and he began to fashion these buffalo horns. Those horns, because back in those days, buffalo didn't have any horns. And so Wisagitsak took the poplar tree and started shaping horns from this tree, and he began to blow on them, and he began to make them sharp at the tip and broad at the base. So he was making these buffalo horns until finally he breathed some energy and some life into these horns, and he walked towards the yapis, this lead buffalo, and he gently put the buffalo horns onto the buffalo's head, and he tightened them, and he put them into the buffalo's head, and he stepped back, and Wisagitsak said, Wah, wah, tapwe kitatakinapsen. Wow, do you ever look beautiful? Wow, holy moly. And so the buffalo was feeling all proud and feeling good that he had some new horns, because nobody else had horns like him. And so he was wanting to see what was Wisagitsak was talking about, because he couldn't see himself. But not far away, there was a river. And so he went to the river, and he went to the shore of the river, to the bank, and he looked down into the water, and the buffalo saw his reflection, and he was looking, and sure enough, he saw those buffalo, and his heart melted, and he felt so good. And so he went to Wisagitsak and said, Ha nistes, oh big brother, kitatamihin, you appease me. I'm thankful. Kinanaskum din, mi inu uhe, uskanak. How tenigan kakyo no akumaganak. Wista om sisikakskaw ogoge uke uskanak. And he said, in the future, all my progeny will have these buffalo horns. And so today, when you go across the prairies, when you go into Yellowstone National Park in Montana and Wyoming, you'll see buffalo there. You'll see buffalo by Wanaskewin, just north of Saskatoon. And you have buffalo up in northern Alberta, the wood buffalo and the prairie buffalo that are held in ranches all across the prairies, all across the states. There are buffalo that are still alive and they have horns today. And so those buffalo today got their horns because of Wisagezak, because of his kindness to that first buffalo that got his horns. So now you've heard me talk about the story, Aaron and Tom and Janice and everybody else that's listening. What is the moral of the story? You know what? I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out for yourselves because those storytellers that I grew up listening to, they never told me or my relatives, the young people who listened to those storytellers, we never got told the meaning of those stories. We had to figure it out for ourselves. And so that is what I tell you. You have a mind that Creator gave you. You have a heart. You have two ears. You have two eyes. You have two hands and 2 feet and 2 legs. You have something that you're gifted with, and that's you, your spirit, your mind. You can figure out that story for yourselves. So maybe after my storytelling, you can have a breakdown with your class and discuss the meaning of that story. And of course, when we listen to stories, we have our own viewpoint of what we get from that story, what we learn from that story. And so maybe as you're sitting there listening to me in Mr. Claxton's class within Northwest College, maybe each of you will have a different viewpoint as you're listening to this story. So I'm not going to spoon feed you, okay? You're going to have to feed yourself. You're going to have to listen and understand what that story means to you. And maybe you'll learn something. It will help you perhaps to be a good human being, to be compassionate, to be kind, to be loving, to learn how to calm down. Oops, maybe I just told you the moral of the story. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, maybe you will learn something a little bit more other than what I told you. Okay. So that is one story. Okay. And so Wisagetsak sometimes was hungry. Okay. And so he was hungry for ducks this one day. And a long time ago, those ducks were long legged. They had long legs. They were beautiful and they could sing and they were great swimmers and they could sing like la 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 la. And he was just, singing good this duck, and all of his friends. And they were out on this lake, okay? And they were really good at what they did, but they were kind of like proud of themselves, big chested, like they were God's gift to everything. And so they were not too humble, but they were very curious. And they knew Wisagetsak. So one day Wisagetsak saw those ducks out on the lake looking pretty and handsome. And Wisagetsak wanted to eat some duck. And if you ever ate duck, then you know heaven, because ducks are delicious. I'm not talking about tame ducks that you grow on a farm, but the wild ducks out there in the forests and the prairies when they're around, they're delicious. So we saw that wanted to eat some ducks. So he went to his camp, to his teepee, and he made a bag and he filled it up with grass and moss and he made it look like huge. And it looked like Santa Claus's bag. In fact, Santa Claus is someone that we call Wisagazak as well. Santa Claus, yeah. Just this past Christmas, you had Christmas, right? That red man with his red suit, he came down your chimney and gave you some gifts. Well, in our culture, we call Santa Claus Wisagazak, okay? Because he gives us gifts. So anyway, Wisagazak made this big bag and he went to the lake and he walked along the shore of this lake and the ducks saw him and they were very curious and they wanted to know what was in the bag. And so they called out, Wisagazak! What's in that bag, Wisagazak? We want to know. And But Wisagazak pretended he didn't hear them. And he was just walking, minding his own business, walking on the shore. And those ducks were very curious and they came closer to the shore. And again they screamed out at him, Wisagazak, mate sa witabaunan, kikwamek takatago naman maskimote! Wisagazak, we want to know what's in that bag. Tell us. Well, Wisagazak stopped. Oh, you're talking to me? How? Kawitamat now. Oh, I will tell you what's in my bag. Okay, my relatives. Wakawaganak. Utapi tayo mamaskimote. Nigamuan te. Pizza ko naman. I am carrying some songs within my bag. And these songs are beautiful. They're holy. They are healing songs. And if you listen to them, they'll heal you and help you. And the ducks were really intrigued. And so they came closer to shore. Enute petamag. We want to hear those songs. And Wisagazak said, No, Moya. Poko, kausita mauyek. Intumiko up. You have to build me a teepee, a big tent, a cone-shaped upside-down tent. And it has to be out on the prairie, not on this shore. And if you really want to know these songs will bless you. And so the ducks talk to each other. And finally, he acquiesced and said, Okay, ahaw. Kausitamat na mamiko up. We'll go build up that lodge for you. So they followed Wisagazak onto the prairie. And the ducks began to work. Using their long legs, they reached up and tied the poles, and they made this beautiful lodge because everything was magic back in the day. And so those ducks did a really good job, and it was huge. And Wisagazak said to them as they were building the lodge, Make sure that the door is only as big as you, that you can fit in through that door. And so these ducks followed his orders and they built this beautiful lodge. And so Wisagazak stepped back and looked at this edifice, this lodge, and he said, Wow, wow, wow. That's how you say wow. You say wah, wah. Can you say that? Wah, wah. That means wow. So Wisagazak was impressed. What's the gods? Holy smoke! That's a beautiful lodge. And so he went into this lodge with his big bag. And he told the ducks with his head out, okay, now that I'm in, I'm going to open up this bag. But I want you to do one thing. If you really want to be blessed, you're going to have to come inside and dance to these holy songs. And I want you to have your eyes closed. And these ducks were wondering, what the hey? What? Are we really going to do that? Because they knew Isagatak, you know. Sometimes they call him a trickster for good reason. He plays tricks on you. So again, the crowd of ducks, they had a little meeting. Okay, and then they finally agreed. Oh, okay, let's do what he asks. And so Wisagatak went in and he opened up that bag and the songs came out. And those songs were beautiful. And those songs hit the hearts of those ducks, and they willingly went in and they danced with their eyes closed. Hey, yeah, 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 oh, hey, 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 oh. And they were just grooving to the music and feeling good. Meanwhile, Isagetak was reaching out, taking this one duck by the neck and wringing his neck and putting the duck's body to the side. And so he was doing this at his leisure while his bag was singing these songs. You see, he was magical in that way. Well, this one duck felt something was not right. And he looked. In Paiko no Awakistas and In other words, our brother is killing us off. Oh, the carnage. And everybody opened up their eyes and they saw their dead brothers and sisters strewn about in that lodge. And they ran for that door. Some went out and some couldn't because they were so scared and they tried their best. Now finally, that one duck that sounded the alarm, he was just running to that door, and Wisagatak spotted him, and Wisagatak took his huge Bigfoot, a Bigfoot bigger than the Bigfoot of the forest, whom we call, by the way, Mr. Bill. That's a real spiritual being. A Bigfoot. Sometimes you call him Sasquatch, but we call him Mr. Bill. And so he had a big foot like Bigfoot. And boom, he kicked that duck in the behind in the derriere. And that duck flew out of the teepee into outer space, way up there. And you know, there's a natural law that says what goes up must come down. Well, that duck, he came down until finally, boom, he hit the ground. His beak hit the ground like this, and his feet hit the ground, and something magical happened. His feet and his long legs, they changed. His long legs became short, and his beautiful feet became webbed from the impact, and his beak that hit the ground, it became a bill. And his voice that once sounded like la 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 la. Sounded like quack 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 quack. So he changed. So from then on, those ducks, they look like the ducks of today. And so that duck paid a price for warning his fellow duck mates that they were in trouble. And so, those kinds of ducks, those wild ducks that quack about, that swim in the ponds and the lakes up there in northern Saskatchewan, and the ducks that swim on the South Saskatchewan, North Saskatchewan rivers and the sloughs out there in the farmlands of Saskatchewan and the parklands of Saskatchewan. Well, those are good for eating. Have you ever eaten wild ducks? If you're a city slicker, when you're not thinking like a city slicker, would you handle the eating of wild ducks? Ooh, the best kind of duck to eat is the one that's made in duck soup. Ooh, oh, doggy, especially with bannock. Fresh bannock and duck soup. And then that duck is so good. What's the gosh? Hey, maybe you can invite an elder or some indigenous person out there to make duck soup for you in your classroom and make some fresh bannock in honor of storytelling week or month here in February. And you can have an experience for yourself the beautiful food that we call sea seep. Can you say sea seep? Yeah, that's how you say sea seep. Okay, that's called duck, sea seep. Sea buck, ducks, plural, sea buck. One duck, sea seep. Okay, and soup is what we call miche mapui. Miche mapui. Miche mapui. Sea miche mapui. Duck soup. Mm. Oh, I'm just salivating now that I'm thinking of duck. But here in Quebec, they call it confit. Confit. They like eating ducks at these hoity-toity fancy restaurants out here in Quebec. Okay, confit, confit. Duck legs. Yeah. So anyway, so that is the story of Wisagetzak and how the ducks got their short legs. So thank you very much. That's been my hour. Tom Claxton, Erin Lynch, Janice T, Carrie T, Kay Stadnick, Anna, Carrie, and all of you guys out there. Thank you very much for listening to me. Aaron, Jackie, TH, Haidameko. Yeah, all of you guys. Thank you. Epse, kinenaskunt na wow. Epen tuhtaw yeguma. So I pray that the Creator blesses you with a good day and that you're watched over and that you have a good, safe weekend. Okay, coming up. Thank you, many thank yous. Mwah, 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 mwah. Yeah, Marcy from Duck Lake. Yeah, way to go. Marcy, merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. C'est sûr, c'est sûr.
2, 3.
Thank you.
Right on, thank you. Hey.
Amazing. Thank you again, Delvin. You're always amazing to listen to. I love your stories. I just love listening. And I can see all of the students. They're quite excited as well to have you talking.
All right.
But,
Thank you. All right.
anyone have any last minute questions? If not, we will sign off.
Okay.
Looks like people are signed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Say thank you.
Thank you, Delvin from Northwest College.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you, Miss Sampson.
Thank you so much, Delvin, for the amazing stories. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Have a
Okay,
good one.
see you everyone. Have a good day.
Merci, Delvin.
Okay, for sure. Merci. Merci beaucoup.